Oh, hey, welcome back to the My Pro Golfer channel. Today we're going to take you from step 1 and 2 on how to hit a 6-iron. Hey, thanks for watching today's episode. Here at My Pro Golfer, you know we like to keep things simple. And today, I've got a special gift for you to help you never miss a 5-foot putt again. Click the link below and download today. All right, so what is step 1 and step 2? You never really said that, Jeremy. Why are you talking about that today? And so what I wanted to clarify was, you know, as I'm thinking about this series and everybody's giving me more and more comments of, you know, what's the focus? What do I need to do? And so step 1 is just making sure, as it is in the olive tree method, if you're learning the olive tree method, it's the basis of getting the golf swing to work like a tour player. This is simplifying it. So step 1 is just making sure that you've got that set up. And 6-iron starts to get a little difficult. The longer the club, the longer the swing needs to take, and the more difficult it is to match it up and square it up. So as you learn this series and you're learning how to swing the golf club, know that it's not an accident. The longer the club gets, the more difficult it is. On last week's scenario, when I had the 7-iron, I actually realized I got to be really particular with that 7-iron because the length was a little bit long. I actually took the swing longer than I had intended in the development of that practice. And so the real versus feel is really important. So videotaping yourself, looking at yourself in a mirror when you're swinging, all these little things will help you a lot. But the number one thing you've got to do is get set up properly. So make sure you got a little bit of tilt. This is step 1. And then step 2 is just feeling the club swing in front of your body. So when you get yourself set up properly, you want your space evenly distributed. You want the club about shoulder, hip height, and you're just going to bring it back to your shoulder and through to your shoulder and allow the body to move with the club. Don't let the club work the body, okay? So make sure you feel the swing of the golf club more than what your body is trying to get you to do. All right, and so remember, if we can do this in a short version of it, swinging the club and hit a pretty solid contact, it makes it a lot easier to hit the shot when it's a full swing. So let's get ourselves set up. Remember, we want that hip up, body up and on top because we're trying to brush it off the ground. We're just going to try to take it, and you're going to notice that I'm going to take it further than this, but the feel of it is stopping here at my hip and swinging it through to my left hip. Okay, so here we go. Let's get on top of it, take it back from hip to hip, and that was solid contact. That's the feel I want. I want to drive that ball in low. I don't want to lift it. That's a killer. If you watch this on the driving range, it's a disaster. Don't get in that habit early. Compress and brush the ball up in the air. Don't lift it. So a real quick plug for the beginners out there. I'm selling a course on our website that is called From Couch to Course. And it literally takes you through each step of the olive tree method from the imagination that you are literally trying to learn the game from your living room so that when you get out here, you don't have to be concerned with what you look like or the movement patterns or have any of those habits that you create from playing golf on your own without really good instruction. And for those of you that are beginning today, this is kind of how we go through it. We can take something like an umbrella and we just learn how to get into the proper setup and stance and feel the swing without having to spend any money on buying a golf club or anything like that. So if that's interest to you, go to myprogolfer24.com right now and purchase that course. Hey, just want to remind you to not forget on getting your free gift below on how to never miss a 5-foot putt. All right, so we've hit the punch shot. We've taken the club back halfway, or at least feeling like we're taking it back halfway, making sure that the club head is outside of the hands, and we're bringing it back on that same path, making sure that the club is swinging out in front of us as if we were a gate, and this was the actual outside of the gate when you're working and moving, you're closing the gate, which is closing the club face on the golf ball and sending the ball in the air versus lifting it into the air. So now we're going to go into the actual full swing of it. We're going to make sure we get our body set up in that perfect setup that we talked about. Get our body leaning over for step one. Now step one's done. This is the biggest and most important piece of anything. Aiming the shot and getting ourselves in the setup position to compress the ball and brush it versus lift it is a fundamental piece. And then from there, you're just swinging the club back and through as if it's a gate around your core or around your spine. Here we go. And when you can do that movement pattern, you're going to hit a shot that's going to create a pattern in the air, and you're going to say, wow, that's really good. I like the way that does and moves and goes. Or it's going to go and you just don't love it. And if you don't love it, that's when you need to get a little bit more personal instruction, because the club face could be a factor, how your body finishes could be a factor. If you're swinging with your body weight loading and unloading, and you're finishing fully on your lead side, then your swing should be pretty good, and you're going to create a consistent pattern in the air. If we don't like that pattern, that's when you need to get a hold of me personally to help you from that step to the final step of obviously eventually getting great at this very complex but also super simple game. So I hope you were encouraged by today's episode, how to swing a golf club with the 6-iron. The 6-iron starts to get into that area where the clubs get a little bit longer and they're maybe a little bit more frustrating, a little bit harder to sink that club up. So they need to take a little bit more time. Remember, the longer the club, the longer the swing is functionally going to take to get back to the ball. And people argue with that to me all the time, but imagine if I was trying to hit something a good distance away off a tee, it would take quite a bit of time for me to bring that club back with a lot of torque and a lot of bend in that shaft to square it back up and then finish it all the way through. That's a slow process, even though the club head itself would be swinging quite fast, but it's much harder to control, so you got to swing it smoother and more around. Not that you can't swing hard at it at some point, but the positioning and the rotation and the loading of the swing need to take a little bit more time the longer the club gets. So hopefully this was helpful. We'll check you next Thursday at 6 o'clock. If you haven't done it already, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next Thursday at 6 o'clock.